We didn't create this shit for money.
And boom, we're alive. And man, well,
Mic
dude,
drop.
well, mic drop, boom. Well, man, it's been a long time since we kind of caught up, man. So, first of all, dude, how's things generally, man, since we last spoken?
It's just like I told you before we went live. I'm living the dream. Hervé Villachet from Fantasy Island, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Well, man, I think this is a sort of good conversation I want to have really because I think that one of the things I really want to have a conversation with you about tonight and while we're here, and I just want to broaden this up because as you know, this is going to be a live open forum, but I want to open this up to basically what the whole process of where people who are like, you're a filmmaker, you've done music and stuff, I'm an artist, how we get things to that final process and the difficulties and the struggles that we face as artists, because I'm hearing it quite loud and clear that people don't seem to understand in the outside general public. It doesn't seem to ring a bell with certain people about why it's necessary to reward the people, the filmmakers, the musicians, the artists, and people. Maybe people understand it. So I think they need to hear it from. I think it's good to have these conversations because people seem to be like you just said, then man. People seem to be focusing on money and other things, and I think it's good at times to sort of break this right back down to what it's all about, and it's all about basically trying to reward, as my focus has been, as you know, has been to reward the people who create. So do you know what I mean? I mean, dude, we've had this conversation 2 years ago, and here we are now. I mean, how much has changed? You know, Spotify hasn't changed. You know, none of these platforms have changed. We're still all being ripped off, aren't we?
I mean, yeah, for the most part, nothing's really changed. I did find what Jay Z was trying to do with Tidal to be fairly interesting. I knew there would be pretty like the way the market is now with so many places to get music from and stuff like that. To think that you can just sell it on your own from your own service. Yeah, and just charge sort of like a Netflix type fee for it, where we'll charge you a monthly fee, use our streaming service, and you will get all of our artists exclusively. You won't be able to hear them on Spotify or iTunes or something like that. I think it was an interesting concept, but there's just no way it could ever work because yeah, unless they had. I mean, you would need so many artists, just like Netflix needs so many different movies and Hulu and all that. They need so much. So much backlog and so much catalog in general that they can charge that amount. But as far as being an individual artist, no, the nothing's really changed on the major platform a little bit, but for the most part, not really. Everybody is just still scrambling, whereas indie is sort of scrambling in its own way, just because of um, just how the technology's changed, easier access to reach your audience, social media, things like that. So you, for an indie person, you obviously can get more exposure than what you could have 20, 30 years ago on your own. But at the same time, uh, you're almost working more and seeing less.
Yeah, which begs the whole question and I think this is one of the questions I think we're facing is definitely from the creative element at the moment. I mean, have we gone to? Are we now stepping into from the age of information? Are we stepping into an age of where we've all got to realise that when the days of actually being able to charge for our stuff are gone, and we've actually got to understand a new paradigm where we, you know, and try to build tools with that. Because as you just said, my friend, I mean, even this week, I mean, even quite large artists are coming out and having their say about you know certain platforms and about how you know is the idea of even being paid for music now a concept that maybe as a lot with a lot of things, but culture's the last people to realise it, and maybe we've got to sort of really get our heads around about how do we, which is what you know as we know, how do we reward people directly without any, as you were just quite eruditely saying, without these middlemen, without having these control systems. And I think it's just necessary. But maybe that's the question. You know, we were just discussing. I mean, you know, is that something that, as culture, that's a bigger question for people to ask, isn't it? Because I mean, as you would quite rightly know, I mean, you know, you know, the people who create stuff are, they're doing it right now, and they're being ignored. I mean, you would say from the States, I can argue it's same over in here in Europe, and we have to find a solution to that problem. If not, we're just going to continue, with people like yourself. And I'll be true, I mean, there you go, someone like you who's made a great film, and yet where's your reward been? But yet you've, how much, all you've done is made advertising for YouTube. You've done all their hard work, but yet you haven't, as a filmmaker, as a person who's created content, you haven't been rewarded directly, which is, it's ridiculous. This is 2016.
Yeah, and it's just I don't know, especially with something like YouTube, it's you are generating them audiences, you are making them money because they are making money. They are selling space to advertisers, and so yeah, I mean, just by they do offer this sort of free forum, but at the same time, you are getting them money. You are making somebody else money, which is so much in the artist industry. That's what happens to an artist is they end up making other people money because uh, I don't I know I'm not the only one, but I'm certainly not the best at selling myself or trying to market myself or advertise myself. It's not, I'm not into doing that. Even when I had to come up with a tagline for the movie, I was like, I cannot sum up 4 years of work in, a 30-word tagline. And, that's basically what they want is they want you to give them they just want the quick bit, and from there, it's basically up to them. It's no longer up to the artist, the independent artist, to put a price on their own work. It is now up to the audience. So, like you said, most people are giving away their music. Most uh, artists that I listen to, there are very few that will not offer their album up without basically a pay what you want type option, because there sometimes you will get somebody who will pay you like a full amount for a full album. They'll pay you the full thing, and you're cool with that. Some people will give what they have. Some people will even give more, which typically does not happen. But no, especially with music, those people are making more money on live performances than anything, and they can almost expect sort of little to no return on putting something up on Bandcamp, because even Bandcamp is they are taking their cut from you. PayPal is taking their cut from you. Taxes are taking their cut from you, and yeah, so you might sell $30, but at the end of the day, you don't have $30. You have $19.
Yeah, and this breaks into the conversation that I think is really important, which is the real crucial element is the breaking of the middlemen, and I think that's the real, as you know, we've had conversation about this many times, but it's that's the problem because, like you said, Ryan, I mean, inherently, the creative people tend to be outsiders. We tend to be people who are quite, and all the traits that go with that. And like you said, one of those traits, we're not the best at selling ourselves, and that's why we're creative people. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, we can be neglected on the side stuff, and like you say, then it takes a middleman to come in who promises you. I mean, it's the same with musicians, artists, the same thing. They get promised the world, they get taken in, and all that creativity and all the stuff that they produce that everybody loves. I mean, how many people don't? I mean, how rich are our lives for not having Star Wars or George Lucas or these films or the music and stuff? That's the height of, that's why we live for, and yet these, like you said, the people that create all this are being exploited, and that you see the same sort of trait. Now, if you could get rid of the middlemen, where it could be like, okay, look, can we just directly fund and reward people for what they are, and say, okay, maybe we accept what they are. I mean, as you know, one of the traits that goes with many people who are generally creative is they tend to be seen, especially in the current paradigm, they seem to be seen as, like I said, not only as outsiders, but they seem to be as, I mean, what's the archetypal one? The mad professor, the guy who's obsessed with what he's doing, the wacky filmmaker, the artist who sits up in his, and that's a fair enough portrayal. But the point being is, how much of history has got to be strewn with people. I mean, I always say this. I mean, we're in 2016. I mean, I don't. How's the future going to judge people who, we look back at Van Gogh and think, okay, well, he died a pauper. That was different times. But now, why are we living in 2016? Why can't we reward people directly? That's the frustration to me, and I think it's essential that we need to have these conversations because, as you said, Ryan, because it's always been a case of history, and in any art form, in your film as a filmmaker, in my field as artists and stuff, that the people that people remember and are a memento, like you just said, always seem to be pushed to the outside because of the very things, like you said, they're not very good at selling themselves, they're not very good at putting their head above the parapet, we tend to be loners, and yet, like, these things are remembered, and I think it's solutions to this, and this is what has always excited me about, as I've been talking about it for a long time about the technology safe network and stuff, and I think it's the whole idea of breaking down the middlemen, and it's that's where we are right now, and we're still confronted with, this is the conversation about the human nature, aren't we? We're still confronted with the idea that people, as when you, like you said at the beginning of this conversation, people seem to be obsessed only with, I don't know, just the end solutions and not the people who come up with the ideas. Hi, sorry,
Yeah.
John. Sorry, John. Hi, Rich. We've been heavily involved in this conversation. We're not ignoring you. We've just been.
Hey
How
guys,
you doing, both of you? How you doing?
What's up,
good to see
Rich?
you guys.
Hello, hello.
I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm thinking about the different venues that my wife and I had tried to discover to, find ways to get the works out that she's been creating, video wise. And it's hard, in the past. And if you go back way back, every artists that made names for themselves, they always had, wealthy people that would back them and kind of like push them along. And nowadays we're moving to festivals and things like this. That's where artists get known. And and then there's new things coming up, but they're far from being enough for anybody to make a living. I'm thinking of like Watch My Bit, where you can upload a video and automatically set it up to where the producer gets a cut, the director gets a cut, the actors get a cut, the musicians get a cut, and it automatically does it. And I think when I think about what N99 can do, I think about the structure of the distributed or the decentralized autonomous organizations that are being created right now, where you can have it to where festivals that can be group funded by this organization of everybody, and everybody can benefit by finding talent and just pushing it to the world in a way that makes it equitable for everybody involved. And I know it's just because you can do something and you do it well, it doesn't mean you're ever going to get paid for it unless the right people hear it and want to support you. And there's other programs like, what's the one, Patreon? Patreon seems like it's done okay for some people, but it's like none of these are well known enough for people to really make a living, and it's going to come down to something like N99 in the future, where you have everybody's familiar with how cryptocurrencies work. They use them, they like them, and then you have people who gravitate towards equitable means of distribution. And I mean by like the profits generated for a work of art that automatically goes and is distributed fairly among everybody concerned. And I mean, I know that if I had a choice when I was watching television at night, I'd much rather watch a venue that automatically paid the people responsible for creating that entertainment, rather than the majority of it going to Netflix and Netflix divvying it up, or maybe they already prepaid for something that became popular and now they're just making bank on it, while the people that they were prepaid are, they're done. They don't get any more money for whatever it is they already sold. I don't know. I see a future where things are going to get, it's going to get better. That's why I think I'm hopeful that these things are being created right now. I don't know if you all have been paying attention to what's going on with the DAO. I don't know. It's called It's basically a large group fund for creating a project or any project. So the way it works is everybody who wants to be a part of the DAO can purchase for the next 28 days some tokens that are the DAO tokens. And the DAO itself is a decentralized governance mechanism where people will put proposals forward. Like, say, if this was an N99 DAO, somebody would say, we have this music here, everything's set and done, we just need studio time, and we need this, we need that, and here's our proposal. Now, this is maybe not going to make a lot of money for anybody, but that could be something that is done in a DAO situation, where the DAO could cover the cost to get that made and then share the profits according to a smart contract on N99 later down the road. The DAO being created right now that I've talked about earlier is actually going to, their first big proposal is going to be from Slockit. And Slockit is an organization that's going to be creating real-world machines that will unlock things using cryptocurrency. And so this could had big implications for Airbnb, hotels, people that want to rent anything that has a lock on it, the sharing economy. So if they're successful, basically what they're going to do is they make a proposal, and they put the proposal to the DAO, which is being created right now, and the DAO holders will have to vote 51% majority to decide whether or not they're going to fund the Slockit proposal. And if they do fund the Slockit proposal, then that money that was put into the DAO, a percentage goes to funding that proposal. And so this is fascinating to me because it's opening up a whole new world of creating new organizations and products and services in a way that anybody can be a part of it and share in the profits of a successful venture. And so, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Rich, and I think that's a really key word that you just said, and I think it's in the actual, that acronym what we talk about, everyone. And I think this is going to be what I was discussing with Ryan at the beginning of this conversation. It's opening this up to everybody because as you quite eruditely said, I think, and I kept my sort of powder dry on a lot of this, but I think a lot of the, and I've said this before, over here in Europe, the reason why Bitcoin and the stuff hasn't taken any sort of traction to the level that I personally thought it would be maybe 3 or 4 years ago is because I personally think it's become this elitist, entity, amongst certain people. I said this before, how many right now could you name to me, how many musicians are using Bitcoin? Now, maybe there's a few, like Imogen Heap, and I know there's a few people that are doing a few interesting projects, but I don't get to see many, and if you ask many people in the circles they speak to, not many. And that, to me, I've always think that, as you said, quite Rich, that where we're entering and where we are in this actual moment in time is not just making this, as history has always done, just an elitist thing. And that's what's always inspired me about Made Safe and everything I've ever stood here and done for this, because I think it's for everybody. And I think that's not just the people who understand right now. Okay, it's a very well, John would know more than this. It's a very complex, and I think it's almost impossible. And that's why there's a few people who can really get their head around the mechanics and the understanding of it all. But that's not really the element to me that inspires me. I don't need to know what goes on inside my computer, but I know that, wow, this computer, this laptop in front of me, I can do emails, and that's, to me, is the inspiring element of it. And that is where I think we, particularly in Made Safe and the Safe Network, I do think this, and I said this before, if it becomes open to everybody, and that means anybody, and that's what I think the transition, and I really do think that it's going to happen, is going to be instant, where people won't realise, because we're not offering them anything different than just what they're going to expect right now. And we see the projects being built right now. We know more than anyone else right now. And some will thrive, and some will, will get pieces, and some will, some will collapse. That's life. But the great thing is that these people are out there now, and they're doing things. And this is what I think is really the element of what me and Ryan were talking about, it's an element of right now to, if human beings are say like get up and do something, you know. This is because there's no time like we are right now, and I'm old enough to remember, and you know, we're all kind of in that age group to remember that this kind of stuff was a dream 10 years ago, and we can't let this stuff slip through our fingers. And we're going to make mistakes, and some of us are going to fall, but that's all part of the creative element. You would know that, Rich. Ryan, you would know that. That's all part of the point when you're creating anything. You sometimes you slip, sometimes you fall, and at other times you just got to go, right, whatever, I'm putting it out. And that's it's the element of it all is it comes down to the individual doing something, and that's why I think, as you said, Rich, it's about everyone and not just a few people, because if not, we're just going to end up and be some elitist little organisation, or and it's I don't want it to be. I think the whole of what we stand for particularly is bigger than just some sort of elitist thing that, you know, could be. I think it's more important. I think that's why we all dedicate a lot of our time and effort to this, is that we want it to reach everyone, and that's why I think it was a key word. That's why I mentioned that.
You know, this is a funny thought I had the other day, but we're all aware that Google and some of these big corporations are literally funding cities from the ground up. You know, they're creating cities from the ground up, and you know, maybe they're designing it in such a way to where they feel it would be, you know, the most efficient, the most effective way to form a city. And it had me thinking, we may not be that far away, you know, maybe 10, 20 years down the road, where people like us will say, you know, it's time for us to create our own city based on our values, based on what we know can be done with the technology at hand, and the funds will be there because of the success of the projects before it. And we can go ahead and fund a city that we think would, you know, sometimes it's easier to just build from scratch than to rebuild, and I know this from having worked on homes. Sometimes things just need to be done from scratch, and if you can level something, great. If not, go somewhere else and build something new. Because the systems that we have today, like as was pointed out by the guy who wrote, it's the book about System D, where he says, or no, actually, I'm getting them confused with Jacques Fresco, who basically said the modern cities we have today have inequality built into them. You know, the majority of people are walking below these skyscrapers, and many of them wouldn't even be allowed in the front door in the bottom level, much less the top. So there's these structures built into society right now where people are excluded. Just right off the bat, you know that you are one person and they're somebody else, and they have privileges that you'll never have. You have to go to an airport and wait 2 hours in line to go through padded security. They can go to the airport and hop right on their private jet and go anywhere in the world. You know, this is stuff that, you know, I want to see it crumble. I don't like living in a society that's so inequitable. So.
Well,
anyway, let's make our own city.
That's the point, Rich. And I think it's. I mean, again, this breaks down to whether cities or, you know, villages were always going to be. But again, this breaks down to this point of no middleman. Because I mean, as an artist, I particularly, and I'm sure many creative people I've spoken to, and I mean, just generally, a lot of people don't want to live in cities. I mean, I could sit here and argue that the whole of cities are a mistake of humanity that we've led into ourselves to. I mean, and personally, as like I say, I enjoy the retreat. I'd quite happily not live in a city, but if I knew there was, and you know, I don't think I'm sort of speaking out of turn here. This is a conversation I've had with, you know, a few people, particularly, you know, done it, you know, made safe themselves. The idea of having, and we know, Rich, we've had this conversation 2 years ago. The idea of having a conduit, a retreat, somewhere where people could, you know, if I knew there was somewhere where I could go, I could have 6 months out, I haven't got to worry about my rent, all that stress is taken away, I've got all the materials there I need to pay, that'd be beautiful for me. And this is possible because once you take away the middlemen who are taking their cuts, there's enough. We discussed it. I don't mean to sort of sound anything other than being realistic. All you need to do is fly in a plane. You realise that this is a big rock that we live on. There's enough resources here for us all. There's enough space. There's everything for us. It's just the division of how everything's being done up because of these, like you said, Rich, these structures that are, let's be real, these are all written by people that were died a long time ago, man. You know, I mean, your country. Look at you. You know, you're still, you know, arguing about rules that are written on pieces of paper. But you know, you still got Congress going on that is ridiculous. It was written for times when you couldn't travel from one state to the other, not for the times when you got instant internet, and you know, let alone what's coming around the corner very soon. It's ridiculous, and that's what I'm saying. But it will change, and it will happen to me in a flash. We discussed it before, you know, all three of us have discussed it before. It's like the caterpillar to the butterfly, and it will happen in a moment. It won't happen over because I think right now we're living for it. I personally think. I think right now we're not waiting for it to happen. I think right now we're living through that moment.
Yeah.
But like you said, you just wake up and it happens. So that's you know, living on the cusp of technology the way we are now, to where it's so just rapidly exceeding on top of itself that yeah, you literally could wake up tomorrow and uh, the next sliced bread is right there staring you in the face, and it's accessible to everybody. And yeah, it's definitely in the moment. It could happen at any time, and like you said, Tim, we are probably living it right now.
Well, and that's one of the things. It sort of goes back to what we were saying, you know, before we went live, right? And this is, and it goes back to what I was just trying to sort of make the point to you there, Rich. And you know, it's it's one of the reasons, you know, why, for instance, I do think it's important that it's open to everyone, and that's one of the reasons. Like, you know, you know, as you know, I've never gone out and said I was a coder, but hey, I'm going to jump into this water and see, and I don't care. I don't really, in that sense, and I'm being real here. I don't really care about, you know. To be honest, I'll be real here. We none of us, as we know, we're people like that. I'm sure if I spoke to you, right, great. If someone could give me $1 million or £1 million, it'd be great. I don't personally want that. I don't want the pressure of it. This is what I was trying to say about why I think creative people tend to go off and live in retreats and be like that, because they don't like the responsibility of having the pressure of all that on top of them. And this is one of the things I think it's important that anybody can jump in right now and build things from the bottom. And this is what I think it's really inspiring about these days that we're going to do. And as I said before, it's all about everybody having a go at and trying things. Whether, like you said, Rich, whether it's from the Dow to A99, well, okay, we're all going to do this. And the great thing about life is there is no right, there is no wrong, but there is the worst thing. And I was told this from a child, and I'll live to the day I die. You only regret what you don't do. And I think that's what's the element of where we are right now, is that we really have got. That's why I said, Ron, we are in that moment when we have got the tools in our hands right now, and that's why I think we all have to grasp this moment, because you know, I mean, and I'm not being anything other than this, and this is the duality where, you know, particularly us as creative people, we know, you know, life is quicksand, you know, life is mortality. I mean, there's a video that's just been this week, I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube, you know, a guy's walking around the streets in the States talking about stuff, and then bang, 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 and he's dead. And he's just, you know,
That happened yesterday.
life can, there you go, dude. There you go.
Did you see that, Rich?
It's incredible, right?
Yeah, I didn't. I haven't been paying attention to the news. I haven't looked. I've been avoiding for the past month anything to do with regular news. Like, the only news I check out is technology and science news, which is generally good news.
Yeah, there you go. But no, a guy was in an area in Chicago, and he was walking around with his cell phone, and he was on a corner in front of a store, and he was just doing like a selfie video of himself, and next thing you know, you hear one or two shots. He takes off running, drops the phone to the ground, and
You know what it was? The guy thought he was taking video of him, huh? So the guy probably thought, oh, that guy's videotaping me, and I'm wanted by the FBI in 3 states. I don't know.
Like I said, it just happened yesterday. They're investigating it, but the phone lands on the ground and it's facing the sky, and you see the shooter like hovering over the phone, firing his gun, and it's left on for a few minutes, and you hear the mom screaming, and it's a terrible, terrible.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. Yeah, there's a lot of mental disease in the city.
But the point I'm making is, and I was using that as an example, but the point I'm making is that you know, none of us know the moment we're going to die, and that it can happen in a moment. That's why I was
Absolutely.
using that, and that's why I think it's important to grasp the nettle of doing stuff. And I mean, it's something that go back to, dude. I mean, here we are. Here we go. It's quite ironic. We're on this conversation. This is like back into the very reverse life is people. And what was one of the early conversations we had about actually doing stuff, and always, even in the moments when you have that resistance, doing stuff, always doing stuff. And it's the same like we said at the beginning of this conversation. Nothing's changed in 2 years. It's still the process. You've got to grasp the nettle and do stuff, whatever the circumstances you're in, whatever hole you're in, whatever situation you're in, whatever people, the current moment you're in. It's about doing it and and actually, doing part of the process.
Well, I mean, a lot of things have grown since the days of Safe Cafe, but you've definitely come a long way. I've come a long way. A lot of things have come a long way, and at the same time, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So the more I still feel like I'm uh, bitching about the same things or the same types of people or uh, yeah, I don't know. It just always seems like the things that worry me the most or make me angry the most always seem to be there, and it's more. I think it's more just people. Like the tech gets better, a lot of the art gets better, the way we do things, the way we create things, and then at the same time, it seems like there's just still. It seems like every hurdle I tend to come across is a man-made hurdle, and not some sort of error, but just somebody wanting to stand in the way or somebody wanting to, uh, I don't know, just sort of try to put the flame out. Or, if you're trying to do something, they just sort of want to, they don't have anything positive or constructive to add to it, but yet they still feel the need to waste your time by expunging all this sort of negativity onto you because you're the one who's doing something. And uh yeah, like everything, it grows, and I don't know, the people seem to always still be there.
Yeah. Huh.
Where did
And
Tim go?
no, I think no, I mean, I think you're correct, Ryan, because one of the things I constantly notice, it's one of the things I think it's an overlap, and that's why I wanted to really widen this conversation up, is you know, dude, I really do, and I hope, and I say this sincerely, I hope I do live long enough to where the real paradigm is, and I do look around and see where I don't see creative people struggling, because it's just the resistance that the people that always face, and it's one of my deep frustrations in life is that everybody, I hear it all the time. People go, "Oh, I love this band, and that tune really inspired me to write this," and I hear it from everybody, from coders, from authors who get inspired by it, right to people who do all sorts of stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that tune really got me through that moment," or "that film really meant this to me," or "that piece of art meant," and everybody loves it, and yet they don't understand at the bottom of the line, as I keep saying, the guy who's producing this is getting nothing. And I really want to live in the world where that changes, where these people, to me, that is the enlightenment, where the people who are creators, the artists, the musicians, are no longer seen at the bottom of the pile and these untrustworthy people. And as it is. I mean, this is what makes me laugh, dude. I mean, like you just said, every person that puts up anything at the moment, whether it's an artist, a musician, they get laughed at, they get scorned at, they get picked upon, and they get, all their projects ripped to pieces. And okay, that's fair enough. And then these bands and these artists go through, and then down the line, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I loved them back in the day," and it's like, no, you didn't. And do you know the worst thing about this? And this is why I want to be real about this conversation is all the time this happens, and okay, the strong bands will go on. We know that. I mean, here we are. The Ceiling Demons have marched on and gone strength to strength to strength. Fold have gone, but in the same time, I've known 2, 3 people, that I've known have committed suicide because they didn't. That's the difference. We got to get out of this whole thing about we just still look down at people because of, I don't know. It's that inherent thing of human nature that we still want to go, "Oh, no, I don't." And we should really be rewarding the people, because at the end of the day, with, it's like I don't know how I would say this, and I'll stand to the day I die and say this. I don't want to live in a world where there's no films, no art, no music, none of this, because that's how I live for. And if it wasn't, I was old enough to remember, and I was slow enough to remember what it was like in the communist bloc, and that was real shit, man. And I don't want that to return, and that will return if we keep ignoring the people who create stuff and produce stuff just because, as you just quite rightly were saying, Ryan, at the very beginning of this conversation, they may not market themselves well, they may not sell themselves well, they may look a bit different, they may be a bit out on the edges, and it's like, oh no, well, come on, people, because I've always said this, and you said this before. We get what we deserve, and people complain about, oh, well, culture's going down the toilet, and I don't watch TV, and I don't watch films, and I don't go out to cinemas anymore. Well, are you surprised? You know, if you don't do anything, if you don't feed the garden, it's gonna just rot away and dry in the dust. You've got to reward, you've got to feed things, and this is where we've got to learn from nature instead of this paradigm we live in at the moment where we just expect things to happen. And I know it's in our culture. We talked about it before. Everyone just thinks that if you just look pretty and have your moment, everything will come along, and it's not. And the truth is, as you know, the people that always inspired me, and this is what I fly the flag for, they're struggling. And like I said before, people love their tunes, but they don't realize the reality of that. Okay, well, like what you were just saying before, Ryan, where they're making very little money. Let's be real. As we said before, Demons. I could tell you band after band after band. They don't get paid. As an artist, I don't get paid. Dude, the galleries don't come to me. I've got to go and pay the galleries. This is ridiculous. This is 2016, and this is the point being is. Okay, we've all said this. I've done 134 of these podcasts, and I've had artist after artist come out and say this. But yet, still the paradigm is like, well, well, it doesn't really matter because come on, people. And I'm getting erudite about this, but it's like this is 2016. I felt like this when I was 22. That's why I was stood there and like I was at 22, and I never thought I'll get to this age in 2016 and be in it. I do not want to be in the 60s and going, what the no. And I think it's important because the point is, and that's what goes back to what you were just saying. Right, Rich was saying earlier on, it's about making this up to open to everybody. And I've always thought this has been the problem with everything. It's been everything becomes categorized and stuff, and that's what's always inspired me about what we could step into the world where there is no middlemen, where there is no barriers, and these kind of conversations can happen instead of it being not happening. This shouldn't just be, we shouldn't just be the only ones that are having this conversation. This conversation should be going on everywhere. This should, do you know what I mean? This should be on mainstream TV. These kind of conversations, because I tell you what, the Enlightenment in this country happened when the artists and the musicians and the poets and the engineers were all in the one big room talking. And it's like, this is what needs to happen. And it needs to happen on a more regular basis. And that only happens when you get rid of the middleman. Sorry, dude, I'm going to hand it over.
Well, I mean, everything you said was pretty spot on. You should write that down. Get it tattooed on your back.
Yeah, exactly, dude, exactly.
No, but yeah, that's what I was saying in the beginning is, a musician puts out an album, they're not getting paid on that album. It's just, sort of that simple. And, you're kind of losing, you're putting so much money into, I'm for some reason I'm just picking music in general, but, so you have, you've made your album, you decide you're going to put it on Bandcamp, or you're going to pay and, get it on iTunes or something like that. Whoever, is, even if you offer it for free, and people give you some money, whatever, that's nice. But more or less, a lot of people, you're not charging $10 for 10 songs. I mean, unless you're on iTunes, which a lot of people are on iTunes, but at the same time, unless it's somebody I really like, I want to pay for. I don't know what I want to pay for an album, but I'm getting off topic. But no, usually yeah, if I like them enough, I'll pay whatever. I'll give them, more than enough. I'll give them enough. Even if I like, there are some people I like that I follow, and they have projects that come out, and I honestly, I might think they suck, but they'll have like a Kickstarter or something. Say like, donate $1 and you can get the digital download or something like that. And I'll be like, all right, yeah, like I might not be too enthused about this, but hey, I'll give them my $1 if if that satisfies them. But then at the same time, they are sort of obviously selling themselves short by offering an entire album of music for $1, which, as an artist, if I were to do that or anybody was to do that, you wouldn't make shit. Especially with what everybody else is gonna have their take on top of that. The taxes, the PayPal's, the iTunes, they all get their fair share. Um, but yeah, even since the days of, in the beginning of N99, that's what it was supposed to be about, was the uh, everything not being so manipulated by these other mediums, like especially YouTube. That was one of the big things we always bitched about in the beginning was, um, my camera shot in a specific resolution, but when you upload something to YouTube, it actually gets converted into I believe it was like square pixels or something like that, and basically it's downgrading whatever sort of film that you put on there. So it is not a top quality medium, but at the same time, it is the most widely used medium. So people are going out there and spending tons and tons of money on cameras, and they're they're posting stuff on YouTube, and they're not getting that quality out of it. Now, back to what I was saying about an indie artist, when they're making an album, say they make this album, they put it out, all these other places get their cut. Maybe this artist makes money off it, maybe they don't. Most artists, most groups are going to have music video now. So now you're talking about money going into a music video. Who's shooting this video? Who's editing this video? Who's writing it, scripting it, what have you. And then there's the cameras involved. So now you're getting into cameras, and well, it's almost everyone now is, they HD is where it's at. So now we're talking HD cameras. So now you're talking even more money, and you're trying to get, you are spending a bunch of money on things that they're related to your music, but it's not your music. And so you're spending money now on this video. Say you have a Facebook page and you want to promote on there, you're spending money on that. Say you want a website, you are spending money on that. Say you want to promote on Twitter, you're spending money on that. It's just um, there's just sort of a lot of things that your money is going into, and you're trying to sell yourself on this one album of music, and that's only if you made it by yourself. Say you were in a band, say you're a band like Fold. Like, well, shit. Now everybody's got to get paid. And, honestly, I believe every one of them should get paid. And, uh, yeah, there's a couple of other groups, indie groups that I could tell you about that are, maybe 7-piece bands or 8-piece bands, and I do believe every one of them should get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the same time, they're trying to build something. They're trying to do it. The people involved in it want to do it. They want to be, around it. They want to make these projects, but it eats and eats and eats and eats, and all your and as being those artists, it is just sort of very hard for you to get a return on an album like that unless you go around and tour, which again is sort of you putting your money into gas, travel, communications, etc. And once again, that's you're sort of gambling on that as well because you don't know how many people are going to come out and see you. You're sort of relying on your already paid for Facebook advertisements and Twitter promotes. So
Yep.
it's just and that's the thing is I wouldn't know any of this shit if I hadn't made the movie. I made the movie, and then it just came to this point where it was like, I am spending so much fucking money and my movie is already fucking done. I made this goddamn thing. Like, why am I just like opening my wallet and just shaking it out for people? And um, I think one of the biggest things for me especially was the website. I had a website not maybe 2 years. It, man, $400 I think I paid in all for those 2 years, and God, I just think like it's such like nobody went to that fucking website. I'm like I don't know anybody who um like if they want to look for a movie or something like that doesn't go to YouTube. I don't know people that go to like actual movie websites. And and that was one of the big things that was kind of like, well, you gotta have a website. Like shit, how the fuck are you not gonna have a website? And I would promote it, I would update it, and again, I'm spending my time and my effort to put all that stuff together, and I was just seeing no numbers on it. I mean, no numbers. But you get on the Twitter, the Facebook, you start seeing likes, you start seeing, you start interacting, you start getting followers. It does build itself up out of something. Whereas I was dropping. So at that point, it was like, I could have easily just taken that $400 and gotten more out of it if I had advertised on Twitter than getting my own website. And I wanted to be a filmmaker, Tim. I liked rap. I liked rapping and poetry and writing and and making music, and those were the things I wanted to do. But now I have to, you sort of have to explain to a lot of people, because if you're a good artist, the first thing you will hear out of somebody is, "How come I have never heard of you before?" And you just look at them and you're like, well, I did do this, I did pay for this, I did do that, I did all this, all the things I just explained to you. Like, I got onto cdbaby.com, I got onto Amazon, I was on Vimeo, Pick of the Week, I was interviewed on this podcast, I paid for these promotions, I went to all these film festivals, I submitted to all these film festivals, I won at these film festivals. And you're just like, you know what? I don't know why you haven't heard of me. Like, I have done everything I can physically and financially. That is my
Exactly.
speech.
No, exactly, dude, and that's exactly the point of it. I mean, I've always thought this is that everything that's ever come through this world, that's ever been of any strength, has come from the bottom upwards. It's come from people, whether it's music, doing it's exactly the same thing, whether it's small band, and I've always said this. This is why when people say, "Oh, look at the sludge." Yeah, well, okay. If you're focused on Taylor Swift and all that, that's up to you. Go ahead and do that. I know there's some really great stuff coming through, and that's why every day of my life I give 24/7 of my life to it, and I'll to doing this, and I will get it through one way or the other because I want to see this. I want to see the world where everybody gets to hear this music, not just the people that are at the moment, because it's. I keep trying to say, I think it's just time we need to switch this paradigm and where like you were just saying then, Ryan, where it's not just a case of not only have you just like you said you just open your wallet up, I mean you're just shoveling all your resources into everybody else's to get them rich. And dude, I could sit there and say as an artist, my friend, it's exactly word for word. Change the word film, put the word art. It's exactly the same. Do you know what I mean? And this is one of the things as well. People, this is that's why I always think the world would be a better place if it was in some ways where the creators were rewarded and they were more up at the sort of the higher sort of the highest species of being rewarded because people look at and as you know where it's anything like it's particularly indie people and the people who struggle, they know that they're the best people like myself who know how to deal with lack of resources and how just to push their idea and their will through. I mean, for instance, this painting here before, that was done on a canvas that I found in a bin. The paints were ones I found I walked around the back of the art colleges and picked up paints for people for a. You find, you build, you do, and that's the essence of all creative people. But it shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't have art. I shouldn't be as a painter walking around the streets looking for, thrown away paint oil paints and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Because everybody, as I keep trying to say, unless if that's the case, then I say to everybody, then go out there and go out there, burn all your records, throw all your music away, chuck all your art, burn it away, and go and live in one great dark room and just listen to silence. And hey, you may be an enlightened being, and who knows? Come and teach me the way to enlightenment. But for me, no, I like art and I like music, and do you know what I mean? And it's we've got to switch this paradigm of, like I said before, where I'm sick and tired, and I'll be real here. We keep over and over and over again. There's countless amount of musicians that are just falling off this whole rock through suicide, through other reasons, because they haven't been rewarded. And that, to me, is the biggest indictment of humanity where we are right now, because it's not a lack of, like you said, we should all just be able to do what we want to do. And the hilarious thing is, why is it always the people who want to create art and music that they're the ones that are hammered down, slaughtered, picked apart, when all we want to do, all we're doing is offering you music and art? And yet the war machine and people who want to make people money, we don't use the rationale against them. No, let's go and pick on the creators. And it's the same pattern I've seen all my life. And I just want that to change. And this is why I fly the flag for what I do. And I really hope we do get to this point, because it's ridiculous. I feel really strongly about this, because I was saying to you begin this conversation, Ryan. Yes, a lot of things have changed, and dude, man, I'm here having this conversation while the crowd sails up. I never thought I'd be in that position, but in some ways, nothing's changed, and that's what I'm trying to say. 2 years have still moved on, and I think we're at, ironically enough, we're at a crossroads of where we are. And as I said before, I think we're already beyond it. I think we're living through it. And it's just to me, it's just how long that herd behind us takes them to catch up to realise where we actually are at. Because whether it's one way or the other, we as a... The genie's been released from the bottle. That's what I'm trying to say. These conversations are happening. We can't go backwards. And as I said before, Ryan, it's as much as a lot has moved on, we need to, like I say, really move us, get us to the point where, like I say, where there are no more middlemen and no more of this whole effort, like we were just describing, we were in a conversation about, where people are struggling. That shouldn't be right. We shouldn't have anyone who's of any kind of field who's struggling. It's ridiculous, because what people don't understand is what I think is really important is the same traits that are shared by the musician and the artist are the same traits that are shared by the professor, the same traits that are shared by the author, and as I said before, it goes back to what I kept saying before. If you don't like that, then I said to you, then go home tonight, burn all your records, chuck all your artwork out, throw all your books in a pile, make a big fire, and go and live in a little dark grey room where you just sit into silence. And hey ho, like I said before, then you'll be the enlightened beings. But I personally do not want to go and live in that world. And that world
we'll all still have a navel.
Well, exactly, John. Exactly. But I mean, I think it's important, because I think people sometimes, and I speak really consciously of this, because I'm only a few hundred miles from what's going on in Europe, and people think, we can have this jokey conversation. No, this shit's real, man. As I said to you before, I grew up with communism on my back door, and the idea that we think, we've gone beyond this, it's not. And this is why we, as what we're doing in this conversation, are carrying the light that, let's be real, that dead human beings are piled up for this conversation, And I think the idea that, this is never going to return, I see it over and over again. And I think this whole idea, if we don't start to reward the people and free and give people the choices, as you were saying, Rich, and as you were saying, Ryan, where anyone can participate and feel they can express themselves. If we don't get to that, we're just going to get to, as I said, what I grew up as a kid in, with what went on in communism, let alone what my grandparents, who I spoke to this week, what they grew up in the Second World War. And this is the same human species, as you said, John. You've all got the same, we all wake up, we all sleep, we eat, we sleep, we shit. Let's be real about this stuff, And the idea that we're some sort of enlightened species now in the 2016, I don't think we are. I think we've got some people that are the outside that are pushing things, but, the idea that, you know, that's because there's a few people like the David Irwins in the world and the Elon Musks and the people that are doing great things that we're all safe. No, no. These people, like I said before, like we were just discussing, right? You know, all it takes is one bus to hit them and they're gone, and that all that knowledge is gone. And that's why it's important that we open this up to everybody, because it's just crucial. I think it's just crucial with the world we live in, because if not, the human mind is quite easily will slip into totalitarianism. And dude, I live in Europe and I see it going on right now. We've got walls going up. We've got, you know, man, there's people walking around Europe with bands on their you know, around their you know, their armbands. It's ridiculous. It's like, I was talking to my grandma this week, and it's like living in 1937. She's scared. She's in her 90s, and she was like, Tim, it's like 1938, and I'm like, I know, Gran, I know. And nobody's paying attention. And that's why I think it's important that these conversations, and we do get to have them, because we think, oh, we can have these conversations anytime we like. But hey, this could all be wiped out. And this is why I think it's important that, you know, that's why, you know, all of us in this conversation have given our lives and dedicated our lives for a piece of technology and for a piece of an idea that's important. And why do we give ourselves to it? We're not getting paid. None of us are getting ridiculous. None of us are sitting on piles of money. We do it because we understand, hopefully, that if we don't have choice in this world and we don't have freedom, then hey, maybe we, you know, as I said before, man, when it comes down to it, and I've lived in Argentina and I know this, when it comes down to it, if that dark world returns, you know who's going to be first against the wall? Me, you, and you. We're the first against the wall, my friends. We're you know what I mean?
Second or
Why you gotta
third.
bring me into that like that?
Okay, well, just me then. I'll take them all. I'll take the lot of you.
I'll just be pointing at you like, there he is.
Yeah.
He's the one.
Yeah, he's the one. And we have a whole bunch of rants on video to prove it.
Exactly.
Anyway.
We were just there trying to get him to say whatever.
Shut up, Tim.
So, what's the purpose of this meeting? I think we all have the. Hang on a second. We all. I don't think
coming.
anybody's in any
They're
great
coming.
disagreement. Yeah, they're kind. You know, I may be first. No.
Yep.
We all sympathize and however we might express it, have general agreement with you there, Tim. What were we wanting to get done? I may have to duck in and out. That's why I'm cutting to the chase.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, to be honest, I'm going to sort of round this up in 10 minutes anyway, because I've got things to do tonight. I mean, I was hoping Daniel was going to pop in, but you know, I mean, I don't know if he noticed on the technical one, he did his development like yesterday, which was fantastic. And just generally, I think one of the things about this whole conversation is, on a very wide one, I think I was trying to say earlier on, I think I'm really, you know, I think as anything in life, you know, it's the end. I mean, I'm not trying to think, but you know, when you throw things seeds into a garden, some of them projects are going to fail, some are going to be good. But what I really, personally, really inspires me right now is there are lots of really good projects going on right now, and it really does inspire me. And I think it's really good, and I think it's just. That's what I'm saying. I think it's why it's really, you know, I think it's sometimes good to talk about them. It was great that Rich, you came on, you told about your doubt. I mean, John, if you want to talk about Project Aquarium and what that's gone on, because I mean, you know, it's this what I'm saying. There's so many great projects going on at the moment, and I think it's just, I don't know.
I don't know anything about Project Decorum right at the moment, other than what's already passed. Harmon has been busy. Doing school mainly, but
that's a great, but that's a great thing. That's what I'm saying.
I was going to say I've been enjoying your technology and choice podcast.
Oh, good. I'm really jazzed with this. You're going to love the next one too.
Right. Even though I fall on the side of fate, and I don't. I don't. We had a whole podcast about choice, free will, and fate. Oh, yeah. And I kind of fall on the other side of the fence, but I fall on the side of the fence that says it doesn't matter what you believe.
Well, I don't especially think that is my core philosophy. That the word perfect in English means complete and whole,
Yeah.
And life is perfect by that definition. It's complete whole. It's all a done deal end to end. Time is an illusion anyway, and it's all just entertainment. So you
We're
might
all
as
just going
well
linearly through a big cube. Yeah.
Well,
whatever.
I'm
I
not. I'm
don't.
not.
But we continually deal with the, even if it's an illusion, we still have. Hey, you're talking to me. You understand what I say when I'm saying, "Hey, Rich, I'm talking to you."
Hmm.
Whatever you might be, I don't know what you consider you to be, and it doesn't really matter. But
Right.
there's at least that, and we can go, okay, well, let's deal with that because it's the one thing we all have in common is that, well, there's an I here somewhere. I don't know what and where and why, but I figure we kick that can around and it starts shaking things loose. That's all.
I want a MaidSafe sticker like you have up on your windshield.
Oh, Daniel gave me that in Austin when I first met him personally at the Texas Bitcoin conference over a year ago. Yeah, he gave me a few of those. He was anyway. That's what's that. I didn't realize you could see that there.
Yeah.
I've also got one on the back of my computer, my laptop.
Cool.
Anyway,
Can I just
um,
say on another one on that very point, John, while you're there, and I mean, I would recommend, and I don't know if you personally were to both Ryan and Rich, definitely recommend Paul Rosenberg's latest book. I mean I mean I've literally just finished it, and
oh,
I said this before. I
the
personally
the Breaking
I
Dawn. Yeah.
yeah exactly. I personally think my it's the George Orwell of our time. I think he's written unbelievable. I think he's just I think he's so he's going to be seen as a giant, and I see him as a giant
Oh,
anyway.
he's an
But that
amazing man. You heard the podcast with him, right?
exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
we've both been talking about the same thing, and again, he's just I recommend anyone. And I mean, you can buy it on Kindle. I think it's under
Oh,
$10.
I've
So
got it.
this,
I've got it. If it were an
so
audio book, I would already be finished with it if it were an audio book. I just have so little time that I'm moving through it slowly. One of these, yeah, I'm engaged with it, but it hadn't grabbed me by the balls yet. So that's coming soon, I'm sure.
look perfect.
Anyway,
Like
but
I
no,
said,
that's great. I appreciate the push in that direction. I've got at least 5 books I need to read to keep moving forward. I had planned to finish reading that one before I had him on the show, but I didn't get to it. But I keep plugging.
but like, I mean, like I say, I mean, I'm going to sort of wrap this up in 3 or 4 minutes time anyway. But is there anything other than, I mean, there's some technical stuff, but I mean, I always sort of feel like this. We all, as being people who are interested in, when we know the technical, what's gone on with the, the updates and stuff like that. So I mean, we're just talking choir, aren't we? Really, behind the stops choir stuff. But is there anything particular, either while you're here and anything anyone was particularly plug? I mean, or talk about or feel free because that's what these three conversations are for everyone to have a
Well,
free voice and
if you want to have a private conversation, as we had planned to do before, I leave it to you to contact me. I've reached a few times. I think I can be of assistance, but I'm not going to chase you around.
no, I
That's all.
just bit like I said. But no, I was just saying to you,
I know you've been busy. I know, and I have too. So that's
yeah,
fine. I just wanted to say that I've
that's
made a
cool,
good effort, and I'm willing to put in more. But you just contact me
cool.
if you want to do that. All right.
Anything else particularly, Rich or Ryan?
No, well, I'm glad that we were all able to hook up for a few minutes today. That was nice, and yeah, it would be good to do more like technology centered, like the meat, the nuts and bolts, like you said. If Daniel had come on, he could kind of give updates and talk about the meat of what's being developed, because that's definitely something that I like to do. So hopefully we can get more of those technically minded developers to join us and talk about some of their challenges and what it is that drives them to do what they're doing.
Well,
Yeah,
Rich,
it's all.
this goes almost back. No, go on.
No, well, I was just going to say, yeah, that's a really good point of getting the, the us here. we can talk about the high level theory, but we were lacking the technical details, which is great. But we got to keep grounded there, going back and forth. Well, what can we actually make happen, and how can it? What's possible? Then we can suggest ideas like science fiction writers always have. Of then this can happen in the future, and then people who know could go, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I think I can do that. But we got to keep the bounce back and forth. I agree.
Yeah. Well, I just got to say I'm excited to follow what's going on with the DAO. I'm really happy to see that going on because I see that all of being complementary to what SAFEnetwork is going to be able to do going forward.
Was that the DAO hub crown sale that's happening?
Yeah, you can find out what's going on the DAO hub. That's basically if
right.
You get the details on what's going on. And they started it yesterday morning, and they've raised over close to 10 million USD so far. And it's going to go towards creating real-world devices that can be unlocked with virtual currencies. And I know that's going to include SafeCoin at some point, and I think that's pretty awesome. And I look forward to a world where I can say, hey, John, I'm going to be out of town, for 2 months, and I know you're going to be passing by this part of the States. My doors are always open to you, literally, because you have the private key, or that you can unlock it with.
Right.
And
cool.
I see a future like that, where all the locks, the people that you want to have access to whatever you want to have access to,
Well, that's the Slock. That's the Slockit, right?
Yeah, that's Slockit is basically making a proposal to the DAO to have funds to go forward and make the machines. And so they don't own the DAO, run the DAO in any way. The DAO is completely decentral. Like, we could literally come up with a proposal to put forward to the DAO, and if 50% of the DAO tokens, voting power behind the DAO tokens, say yes, then they would allot a percentage of funds to us to do something. Of course, that is very much a VC style thing where they're going to want to look at numbers and know exactly where they're going to get their butter, their cream.
Well, yeah.
And so,
yeah. Well, there's a real interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, but the point is that theoretically it's open up to everybody to vote on whatever they want to vote on, and push forward ideas. And I just see it as a very democratic way of funding projects, and they're going to be dissected in a big way. Like, it's going to be very transparent. You're going to have people say, I don't want to do this because it's ethical, because A, B, and C, and D, and people will be able to vote according to their philosophies, and if they don't like it, they'll exit that DAO and start their own.
Right.
So
there's that really is, that's an interesting thing. I've been working with Chadrick, working over the CrowdFound hub. Basically, he's been working. You've seen that on the forum, I assume, right? The crowdfunding.
Yeah, I haven't read it lately, but
there'll be. Well, I think he's going to release some things more fairly soon on that, just for more community consideration. But it's really exciting, and we should probably inspect what all they're doing over on that more closely as well.
Also, the fact is that the DAO code is open source, and anybody that wants to use it to DAO, it's available. So
that's fabulous.
Obviously, you don't want to reinvent the wheel twice if they've already done it really well to begin with, and I don't know if he's looked at it yet. But I don't have the expertise to understand what I'd be looking at anyway.
Cool. Well, yeah, me either. Well, I will. I'll mention that to him. We're in pretty close touch.
Okay.
Cool.
By the way, Rich, you trying to say that the best way?
Huh.
I was just going to say, Rich, you're saying the best way forward. I was just going to say, Rich, you're saying the best way forward then isn't square wheels.
Well, it could be. It just depends on the landscape. If it's snow, it might be better. We just got snow.
No.
Is there any time that it doesn't? I'm in Arizona right now. I've been thinking of coming back by your way, but is there any time when it's not windy or snowing?
The wind gets really bad in different times of the year, but it shouldn't blow you over. The snow is a bit of a surprise because yesterday was nice. I was working outside all day, and it was perfect. And then the weather forecast snow, and sure enough, this morning we woke up to white. It's kind of melted off, but it's still like drifting a little bit of snow.
Wow. Well, altitude and all that.
Yeah, we're over like 7,500 feet up.
75? Well, goodness gracious, that's
So,
Yeah,
Rich,
something like that.
so
that's over
basically,
Denver.
so basically, Rich, you'll just be above the shadow line of the Trump wall then, because that's going to be about 7 miles high as well. You know what I mean? So the shadow will you'll just be just above the shadow line.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, come
Like
on,
I said,
people.
I really don't know what you're talking about because I haven't been paying attention to news. Trump. I see Trump cartoons every now and then, and I get a laugh, but then I don't pay attention, and I don't know.
Rich is in northern New Mexico.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, not northern, but yeah.
Well,
I'm
he's
actually.
further up.
Yeah, I'm actually considered like south, or
really?
Central.
Oh,
Yeah.
but you're high altitude in the.
It's the last. It's the furthest southern ski resort in the U.S. is nearby where I live.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Rich, as I said before, the very fact you got Trump and Hillary Clinton is yet more proof, and this goes back to a conversation we had before, but we were way back, that this is all just a computer simulation. Because it's like, this stuff is you couldn't make this stuff up. You could not make Trump up and versus Hillary Clinton. Yeah, as a script writer, who's someone who spent 3 years doing a degree in English, I couldn't make this up. And if I did, they would laugh me out of my third year of uni and be like, no.
I just can't get it out of my head. Like ever since before the elections or before people started running, the fact that Hillary Clinton had representatives at the Bilderberg conference last year just made it firm in my head that she's the next president. And so I look at everything else as theatrics because it's like for the many.
That's why I mean, I don't think much of politics, but it has been entertaining, and Trump is a wild card. He's not. The neat thing that he's doing is he's a wrecking ball to everything that the mainstream media and the political establishment. He's playing his own game. I don't think he's. I mean, who knows what he's actually doing or what will come of it? But this is not something that they planned.
Yeah,
he's shaking things up in a big way, and I think that's kind of cool. As it goes.
Yeah, he's just said too many things that I can't listen to anything. I think in reference to Snowden, he said, "Don't we still have the something called capital punishment?" And that just made my skin.
Of course. I don't say we. I support him. I say. It's really good entertainment, but the main thing is that he's shaking things up and waking. People are kind of going, wait, oh, you mean somebody can actually talk back to the mainstream media and ignore them and bypass them? Oh, that's a thought. These party politics and really? Is that how they select candidates? And this guy who's getting all these votes, they're going to do that to him? Oh, something stinks here. Something stinks here. Maybe including him.
I just want to see John McAfee debate some of these people. I'd love to hear him because he's way more irreverent than even Trump, I think.
Sure, but he's not nearly as savvy as Trump is about what he's doing.
Yeah,
Did you notice what I did there, gentlemen? I kind of like did the old English trick. I went along. I kind of like just set a little fuse off, sat back and watched you all just get 5 minutes.
It's fun. It's great. It's great fun. It's great entertainment.
I don't fall for Tim's tricks anymore.
We wouldn't have, except we were wanting to probably. Anyway.
Right, people. Right, anyway. Ryan, my man, it's been great.
Are you saying you're manipulating us, Tim?
I'm just saying all you got to do is say, all you got to do to wind up any Americans, just say Clinton or Trump, and then you just sit back and it's just fantastic. It's just like. You can't do
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
other.
yeah.
It's perfect, man.
Oh, it's insanity. It's a, you know, when you're in a madhouse, you're still in the madhouse. Anyway, we
Anyway,
should let you go. You're 8 minutes over.
yep. I know my missus is giving me the glare. Anyway, Ryan, it's been great talking to you tonight, my man. It's been a while since we've come out of hibernation for this one, man.
Yeah,
So I
Ryan.
feel honoured.
I
All
came
right,
out in
y'all.
full beard.
Bye bye now.
Anyway,
Take care, guys.
from me in Scotland and everywhere, man, life is people.
Later.